Hi, my name's John. Um, so my story is Nimona. Um, I've always thought it was weird um, trying to make a video and describing everything. So let me get this stuff out of the way first, and then we can go into better detail. The title obviously is Nimona. The writer, the author, the writer um, and artist was Indy Stevenson. The color assistant and artist is Sam Bosma, Bosma. It was published by Harper Teen, and it was first published in 2015, and it had 266 pages in total. So, a little interesting facts about it first. Um, this story's kind of got a little bit of internet history behind it. It originally started on Tumblr as a webcomic. And from there it picked up traction, and due to the, I guess, evolution of how we consume media, it won awards and it was highly appraised by the LGBT community, eventually getting an adaptation into Netflix. Um, so after its final print and its versions was rewritten and restructured and redrawn in parts, Act 1 ends at roughly page 80. Act 2 ends around 200, 210, and Act 3 ends on page 266. It follows the classic Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 structures. This is Nimona's story, though. However, I think that Blackheart is a strong second protagonist. In Act 2, as Nimona dives into institutions, corruption, and the more she bonds with Blackheart, the more she desires to connect. The more her desire is to connect is tested. The story arc is very clear, with the beginning being Nimona's arrival, the middle, the institutional conflict and emotional turmoil, and the end being the dramatic resolution. The character arc starts with Nimona, who went from chaotic sidekick to a tragic, complex person who is fighting with identity and trauma. Blackheart, who goes from a rule-bound villain to a caring father-like figure who bends his code to save Nimona. Goldloin, who has some growth but is less developed as the other two. The story has clear transitions in setting and time. McCloud transition ideas are mostly action to action and subject to subject transition. Some scene to scene transactions are used in backstory flashbacks, but many of them seem to function as mini scenes. The panel flow intuitively. Action and character motivation, the text placement on it flows well with your eyes. I'd recommend this to classmates, and I'd recommend it to friends. The tone changing from funny to intense, I've never cared for it. It flows fine, but I've always, if a moment's meant to be intense, I feel like I feel like comic relief shouldn't really be introduced. Or obviously, that's just my opinion. The dialogue is still snappy and modern, and the themes of trauma and agency are powerful. The thing that I'd really like to focus on with the story is I would have to say, for me, the panel design, because when it comes to comics, and especially nowadays, sometimes people try to put too much onto certain panels. I didn't have that problem with Nimona. It actually flowed quite well. And I thought that that was something that I could really appreciate with this story. And it sounds a little downish, but I do love the stories that revolve around trauma and around figuring out yourself and more of the darker topics that a lot of people kind of like just move past. And it doesn't do a perfect representation of it, but it does do a good job of real life struggles and what people have to go through. So, in all honesty, I think this was a solid comic. And it was something that I was surprised that normally I probably wouldn't have read on my own. I probably wouldn't have looked at it and been like, oh, this seems interesting, just mostly because of what I'm interested in. But I'm glad I read it, and I would encourage anyone else to read it as well.